All righty, welcome to Zone In Sports. How you doing out there, E, today?
I'm doing great, man. It's beautiful. The weather's beautiful here in St. Louis, here in the Midwest. I think we turned the corner on the freezing cold. I'm hoping we turned the corner. It's still March, but the outlook looks pretty good. So yeah, everything is good, man. Feeling good. Getting outside.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir. Hey, well, I was talking to you behind the scenes, and I told you I was listening to Jim Phillips talk, ACC commissioner, and they basically was talking about our thumbnail. We're going to talk about the ACC, and he was talking about how the conference is stronger with the things that he signed. And the interesting thing, I had to step back and I'm thinking like, okay, well, the conference consists of course, football, basketball, track and field, wrestling, which is only I think about 6 or 8 wrestling schools in the ACC. So that as a whole. But before we dig into the numbers, do you think the conference is stronger or not with the uh, I don't know how to phrase that with the concessions he gave to Florida State and Clemson?
I would say at the very least it's the same as it was.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure exactly what Florida State Clemson really want. They may want to stay relevant, which they are relevant.
Right.
You know, they always put strong football, basketball, and baseball programs forward.
Yeah.
Track and field programs forward. The swimming programs are strong that they got. They got ladies volleyball. They got ladies softball. I mean, so
Right. Golf.
golf, cross country. So the wrestling. Yes, wrestling is more of a Midwest. Same with hockey. Not every school has hockey.
Right. True.
Um, Wrestling. Not every school has wrestling
True.
on the collegiate level. So if other schools, it's certain schools they say they don't have a football program.
Yeah.
So I think right now with the political climate, I'm not gonna get into politics, but with the political climate, with the federal funding being cut for a lot of schools, a lot of schools are gonna drop certain sports programs. I mean, or even look at Lindenwood.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a question right off the bat. Now I thought about this posing this question to you and I, but we're going to dive into that later. But I do want to put this up here and get your opinion. And it says if the conference is strong, why is Notre Dame still independent but plays in the ACC, play ACC teams?
I think Notre Dame is smart to be independent. I kind of wish Miami was still independent.
Me too.
When you independent, you playing a little bit of everybody. So yeah, Notre Dame gonna play SEC schools. They're gonna play ACC schools. They're gonna play Big 12 and Big 10 schools. And there was a time when Miami was independent. They played the best of the best. Really, you thought about it. They played Notre Dame.
Nebraska.
They played Nebraska. They
yeah.
played Oklahoma. They played Florida State. They played Florida a couple times. They were the strong teams out of the SEC. Wasn't no Bama back then.
Right.
Clemson wasn't nothing back in the 80s. The early 80s, they won a title, but mid 80s on, Miami played those strong teams.
Right.
They went out west to play BYU and lost.
Yeah.
The first game of that 1990 season. So they weren't afraid to go out and play other teams that were the best of their own conference because they were independent.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame, I'm sure they still had that contract with NBC.
Yeah.
So it's in their favor to stay independent. You would think. I was just up there 3 weeks ago, South Bend, Indiana. That's Big Ten country up there.
Yeah.
You right there.
I always say Notre Dame play more Big Ten style football.
Right. That's Big Ten country up there and way up in northern Indiana. You less than 5 miles from the Michigan border, and you right there with Michigan and not far from Ohio. That's Big Ten country. But I think Notre Dame is smart. They know they get some preferential treatment from the NCAA. They get some preferential treatment from the cable sports network. It works to their advantage to stay independent.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pose this question because I don't know the answer to that. If Miami was to go independent, of course you got to have some substantial bagging money-wise from the cable sports networks, which we all know Notre Dame do. NBC is one of the, the biggest, Peacock, or however you want to phrase it. Can they get enough national backing to sustain on their own if they was to go?
Miami would have to become dominant again in football.
Yeah.
Because that way you're going to garner playing the top teams in each conference every year.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be, if you're not going to hold up to that brand that you created in the 80s, then today I don't think you have any recourse to try to go and be an independent school.
Yeah. Yeah.
It may benefit. You haven't even won this ACC yet. At least win this ACC conference, so that way you can get that monkey off your back.
Yeah.
That's what everybody keeps saying. You've been in the conference, you haven't won it. You went to one conference game, you got blasted by Clemson.
Yeah.
And Mario needs to win this. And I don't think they're entertaining going
independent. I don't think so either. It's an interesting question, though.
The SEC don't want Miami because they know if they join, then they know it's only a matter of time before it's a wrap, because these kids want to play, quote unquote, in the SEC because of the narrative that the cable sports network created. So if Miami were to join that conference, can you imagine how many kids would then entertain the thought of going there along with the other schools like Georgia and Bama? Because then they can say, hey, I'm in the SEC. So they don't want Miami in the Southeastern Conference, even though Miami geographically sits in the Southeast, just like geographically they sit on the Atlantic coast. So well, me personally, Dwayne, I like, even with the NFL, I believe in geographic. I don't think Louisville belongs in the ACC. You in Kentucky. Yeah. I think they belong in the SEC.
Yeah.
And I think a team like West Virginia, they used to be a Big A school, a Big East school.
Yeah.
I think West Virginia could stay in the Big 12.
And it gets a little tricky because we start talking about basketball traditions with the Duke.
Yeah, see, that play a part. I don't think
not all plays a part too. So
I don't think Maryland belongs in the Big 10.
Yeah.
The state of Maryland is on the Atlantic Ocean. They belong back in the Atlantic Coast Conference, or what used to be the Big East. I can't get up for Maryland playing Ohio State or playing Michigan. That it just don't lay right to me.
Yeah.
But I know it's all about money today and television rights and all this.
Big time about money.
They left the ACC because they was chasing money. The same reason why Missouri and A&M left the Big 12. They was chasing the money. The SEC.
That's a whole nother debate. But we know Texas was screwing and Oklahoma was screwing Missouri and the teams in that conference. And they wound up voting. So that's another one.
Now look at Texas. Now they in the SEC when they want to have they want to dominate the Big 12 and have a Texas television, a Longhorn network. And ESPN was like, we better get them on with that. I think that's why ESPN really lobbied hard to get them in the SEC, because Texas was on the verge of being their own monster by themselves.
Yeah. Well, kind of like Notre Dame, kind of like what Jesus saying. It's like Notre Dame really stands on their own national brand.
Yeah, they stand on that. Do you think they want to give up that independence of being able to call their own shots?
Right.
Without being tied to a conference? They've never been tied to a conference.
Right.
Why do I want to now tie myself down with an anchor to a conference, and I have to appease other schools just to make, and the conference heads themselves, the commissioner and all the people in that conference? When if I'm an independent, I don't owe anything to any conference. I only have to report to the NCAA.
Right.
As an independent.
Right. And the interesting thing, and we're going to stay on the money aspect, because this is when I first started putting this together. I started thinking about, why would the ACC lower their exit fee? $200 million is reported down to $100 million. That tells you right there. I guess you could look at it two ways, because I'm hearing Jim Phillips talk about how it's easier for the revenue, which we'll dig into the numbers. But I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Florida State, Clemson, and supposedly, I don't know for sure that they want to leave. I mean, I don't know if they want to be in the SEC, Big Ten. That's another debate. But you just gave them an ability to leave if you lowered the exit fee.
Florida State used to be independent too long time ago.
Yeah.
Before they joined the ACC. I believe in the 70s they were independent. But if they want to leave, bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
They'll find somebody else. I mean, it's other schools. It's other schools. I mean, SMU was happy to get in there. There are other schools that are that way in that part of the country that they may not be as big a name, but this whole thing has been just
it's crazy. I'm gonna put this up here, and I'll take the first crack at it. It says, so fellas, if a dominant football team is independent, is that the way to go? I'm gonna say no, because you could be dominant still not have a national brand.
Alabama will never. Your traditional schools that have always been in a conference, they're not going to leave. Alabama would never go independent. Ohio State would never. These are traditional schools that have traditionally been in these conferences for 50, 60 years or longer.
Yeah.
They have no reason to leave.
Yeah. And they're the top money earners in their conference. Right. So why would they leave?
They earning the top dollars. They have no reason to leave.
Yeah.
This is for the schools that are struggling. Florida State and Clemson are state schools, and they're probably struggling with the money like a lot of other state schools because, again, not to get into politics, but a lot of this federal funding, some of this federal funding money might get cut a little short.
Right.
And schools are going to have to make adjustments with their finances and their books and, you know, how they spend. And if Florida State feels like they can get more money in the SEC, which they would, then they can bounce. I mean, Missouri did it.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long for things to start changing in Columbia when they joined the SEC.
What do you think? If they decide to bounce, I think it's only a matter of time for Miami bounce too. Because if you come with another realignment, it reminds me of in the basketball when the Big East merged with some of the other schools, or Conference USA in football, they started gathering, gobbling up teams, and then conferences wasn't as stronger. So for them to, I'm talking about Miami specifically, to keep that national brand, it only makes sense if you're getting an invite to a Big Ten. And I know we talked about this last week, and some people don't want to see them go to the Big Ten for weather reasons and travel reasons. But hell, you already invited Cal, and you flying all the way to Cal. So, I mean,
where else they going to go? I don't see Miami going in the Big 12.
Yeah.
It could happen. It could, but I don't see it. I mean, I don't even know if the Big 12 has even expressed interest.
I think they probably will. It really depends on what's that 2031.
To me, the best fit would be the SEC, but I think that's why Clemson and Florida State want to jump at them first.
Yeah.
If they get in there first, then the SEC will say, "Well, we already got 2 Florida teams. We don't need a third one."
Yeah.
And they know that third one is the biggest monster of all. And if Miami joined, if Miami would have joined the SEC, I say in a matter of a couple of years, they would ascend to the top, just off the fact that so much talent would come down there and play.
Yeah.
Stay at home or come from other states to come there and play. I just think it would be a no-brainer if they got in, that they would take over that conference from the other schools that are your traditional SEC schools. Your Alabamas and Tennessees and whatnot, Florida going to get their kids, but at the same time, if Miami would have jumped in the mix, it's going to give all them kids something to think about.
Right before leaving.
Before they decide to sign on a piece of paper to Mississippi or Tennessee. I've been to Knoxville, ain't shit there.
Right? Yeah, I've been there too.
Nothing.
Yeah, I've been there too.
Nothing. I don't care. I mean, I've had people get on me on social media about what they got in Knoxville. You got nothing.
They're also talking about. And I could see it's two sides to this too, because what happens to the bottom teams in the ACC now with the new revenue sharing?
And who knows? It might be, it's not fair to your, what about, a proud program like Virginia Tech or Virginia,
Yeah.
Your Wake Forests and
Yeah.
North Carolina,
Yeah.
NC State, what's going to happen with these schools? So, I mean, I just think all this was started, in my opinion, I think it all got started with the cable sports network. And I think they've really done a disservice to college football over the last 20 years, pushing this conference narrative and this conference talk and putting all their money behind one conference to where all the other conferences feel like they have to make moves to match this one.
Right. And the funny thing, I'm thinking myself outside the box, what if other teams join the ACC model? What if they said, because what is Vanderbilt saying if everybody getting paid the same? How is Georgia looking at Alabama? I mean, Vandy talking about why should they get paid the same? We getting paid and we the biggest draw. So they could follow the ACC model. We don't know how this going to all play out.
We really don't know what's going to go on behind these closed doors with these dudes that's making the decisions with the money. It all comes down, again, to the money. I think if Texas would have really did what they really want to do from the jump and have their own network in the state of Texas, and A&M balked at that, and that's why A&M bounced and went to the SEC. They didn't want to stay in the Big 12 because they felt like it wasn't fair that Texas was going to have their own television network,
right,
independent of a cable network.
Right.
Okay. They were going to do their own thing. They would have started getting a lot of recruits. I don't think SMU would be what they are now.
Right.
I don't think it would take guys away from Houston, Baylor, all these other Texas schools. They in the back seat.
Right.
And I think ESPN saw that, and that would have been a threat to what they were doing. Why not get them on board?
Right.
Get them in the SEC and Oklahoma.
Right.
I think Oklahoma was just really a token grab to keep the rivalry with Texas.
Yeah, and
I really do. Oklahoma ain't got no business in the Southeastern Conference no more than Texas do.
Yeah.
So I think them bringing them in, like I said, that was just, hey, let's bring Oklahoma with Texas. That way they can keep the rivalry. It benefits the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, because they're still a Big 12 natural fit, to me.
That's like Nebraska going to the Big 10.
Yeah.
You can't get up for Nebraska and Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio State. That's not who they are. They're a Big 8 school. That's an old Big 8 rivalry. They played Oklahoma. They played Missouri and Kansas and K-State.
Right.
So, like I said, thanks to the cable sports network, they done just
created new rivalries. That's what it seemed like to me.
It's like they did what LeBron does. Just let it, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cause confusion and chaos here.
Right.
And now you talking about, now I'm hearing rumblings about a super conference.
Yeah. Remember I talked about that a couple of weeks ago that they were talking about that. And that's, I don't know if that's where they say they're going to go, but you never know in 6 years what's going to happen. Now, also, there's so much money to be made. You make it to the first round, you get $4 million, first round of the college football championship. Each school get $4 million. Second round, you get $8 million. Semis, you get 14, and then you make it to the championship game, you get 20 million.
If you just make it, that ain't even winning it.
They ain't even winning it.
So you done win
from my reporting.
So at that point, you done made 4 the first time, 8 the next time. What's the third round?
Third round, 14 million semis.
So now you done made 4, 8, and 14. That's 22 mil.
Yeah.
So then you get to the championship game, you get another 20 mil. So now you at 42 mil. And then how much you get if you win it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy money. It's crazy money. And no wonder they want to expand the championship games because they know they're going to make more money.
They're going to make more money.
So
ain't none of them schools going to drop their programs.
Right.
Any sports program.
Right.
They can have 3 kids on the swim team. We're going to have a swim team.
Right. So do you think if this all goes down in 2031, which a lot of people are speculating with the way the rumors are going, if Florida State, Clemson leave, Miami gets on deck to leave, what do you think will happen to the ACC?
It'll dissolve.
Okay, think they're banned.
It'll dissolve because your Virginias and Virginia Tech, North Carolina, NC State, Boston College, they're gonna look to bounce.
Yeah, but where to? Because they can only absorb so many teams.
That's going to open the door for your super conference, either one or two super conferences, and it's going to ruin the sport. Yep. It's going to ruin it. I think.
They get in chat if now this is a big if. We're talking 5 or 6 years. If these 3 or 4 teams, because they talk about North Carolina leaving, will the ACC disband or will they realign?
I think they'll disband in football, realign in football. I don't think it'll dissolve in basketball because you still have a Big East conference in basketball.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I just think football-wise, since football is supposedly the biggest breadwinner.
Yeah.
Even though the college basketball still make a lot of hoops.
Yeah. And they're talking about the pay gap in between the person that gets the most TV rights or the most viewership and the bottom one. It's like crazy amount of money. I think that the bottom person only going to get like $7 million or something crazy. And that's where you're going to have a lot of people, I think, in 5 years thinking like, okay, if I'm a bottom program, you can look at it 2 ways. You could say, hey, we got to put better product on the field so we can try to compete. But if you're getting less money, how are you going to get a better product? That's another thing too. Like say for travel and all these things, you're not getting as much money to compete with the top tier programs in the conference.
That's true. I mean, you got a lot of guys who want to play football and they know they're not going to go in the league.
Yeah.
But they still want to play. That's why they play D2. That's why they play JUCO. That's why they go to schools like FIU. Nothing against FIU or FAU.
Right.
Hey, I know I'm not going to go in the pros, but I still want to play. And I can play 4 more years. And then, like I said before, I get my degree and I got to go out in the real world and work for a living like the majority of all of us do.
Right.
But other than that, these schools, they're going to have their money to do what they do on that level, on the Division II level or Division II AA level and whatnot. It's just unfortunate, man. Because school is first and foremost is to get the education.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem that way because they want to push the athletics. You're a student athlete. You're not an athlete student.
Right.
But now with them getting paid, I remember my father used to always tell me when I was a kid, we watched sports, college, and he always told me, they want these ball players to be, like majoring in something serious in school. And it's like, you go to college for different things.
Right.
If you're going to be an attorney, you're going to go to school to be an attorney. If you're going to be a administrator or finance, you're going to take classes in regard to that. If I'm a ball player, I'm going to school to play ball. That's why they brought me here. You didn't bring me here for what's between my ears. Not saying
right. Right.
That's not why you wanted me to come to this school. You wanted me to come here to play ball. So if I'm gonna be a ball player, no matter what ball I'm playing with, that's why I'm here.
Right.
I'm not necessarily what I need a degree for.
Yeah. I mean,
why do I need a degree in business management or something? Well, something might happen. Well, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Right.
I'm here to play ball. That's what you brought me here for, to play baseball, football, basketball, hockey, whatever it is. That's why you recruited me.
Right.
If I decide to take other classes or something else, okay. But my main objective to go to college was to play ball.
Yeah.
And I think with football and basketball, those two, it's a reason why you can't go pro at 18.
Yeah.
In other sports, you can. In baseball, you can sign a contract in high school with a major league team if you're that good.
Right.
Same with hockey. Same with soccer. Golf.
Yeah.
I can go pro. But for some reason with football and basketball, I got to wait 2 years.
Yeah. That's a little crazy. I'm gonna share this screen.
It's a pipeline, bro. It's a money-making thing. That's why they did Clarette the way they did him.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm gonna share my screen here.
He was ready to go pro.
Oh, he was ready. He was a beast.
And they gonna tell him he had to wait another year.
And this is this right here is gonna talk about the college quarterbacks. Let me change this up real quick. Let's go to this. Oh, I'm tripping. Let's go to this. Okay, there we go. College quarterback power rankings. Now, this I found was very interesting here, and I'm gonna see.
I think I saw that.
Now, right off the bat, they got Arch Manning, Cade, and Carson Beck, 1, 2, and 3. Now, my only gripe was I don't know how they put Arch Manning number 1, and he ain't even played a full season. So, most of all these quarterbacks we have seen.
Klubnik is number 2. I'm not taking nothing away from Klubnik. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback.
Right.
But of those 3 guys right there, even if Carson Beck, I promise you, if Carson Beck, if it said comma Georgia Bulldogs, he'd be number 1.
Right.
I promise you, he would be number 1. If that said Carson Beck, comma Georgia Bulldogs, he'd be number 1. Archie be number 2, and Cade would be number 3, or vice versa. I don't know how they can put Arch Manning up there either, but again, you gotta look who the writer is, and look him
the writer is Alex. What's that? Byington, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right.
Or however it's pronounced, if you want to go get at him on Twitter and ask him what made you come up with this conclusion, being that you never played football in your life and played quarterback. That's how I get at him, dude.
Right.
You got all these sports reporters, man, and many of them have never played the game, but yet they write on it.
Yeah, it is funny. At 3 or at 4, they got Drew Allor, Sam Levitt, and Garrett Nussmeier.
What?
Yeah.
Lenore should be in the top 3.
Yeah.
He did last year, especially the last half.
Lenore Sellers. Yeah, he's number 7.
If he wouldn't have got hurt in the first game against LSU, he was killing them.
Yeah.
This dude here, I'm telling you, this Sellers kid, he should be a Heisman finalist this year. As long as he doesn't get hurt. South Carolina is a sneaky, scary team. They beat Clemson. Yeah, in that rivalry game at the end of the season at Clemson. Yeah. Clemson defense couldn't do shit with him.
Yeah.
LSU couldn't do nothing with him until he got hurt.
Yeah.
In the first game of the year, they was killing LSU. Had old boy on the sideline cussing. Brian Kelly.
And to round it out, you got Lenore Sellers, Sawyer Robertson, Rico, was it Betch?
Rocco Beck.
And Rocco.
And they're not giving Lagway. They're not giving Lagway much either. I think he's better than 10.
Yeah.
I think Lagway he better than 10. This dude here, I'm about to get that dude.
Yeah.
I'm about to find time to go on Twitter and ask him what made him think that.
Yeah. And that's what he got down there. He got Luke Altemeyer. He's pretty good. He all right. Avery Johnson.
Yeah, Illinois, he nice.
Yeah, I don't think Avery he ain't all that.
He got Kevin Jennings way down there with
Kevin Jennings way down there.
I think he a little better.
Yeah. So it's interesting, like you say, how he came up with this list. I thought that was pretty.
Like I said, you put Georgia Bulldogs next to Carson Beck name, and he number 1.
You're right.
He number 1 all day. Georgia fans are still trolling him right now. like what's that saying? He living rent free in their heads right now. He gone. Focus on y'all quarterback. Why you worry about Beck? Because they know they lost a good one.
Right. Yeah. That was.
They know last season wasn't all on him.
Right.
Not when you got receivers dropping balls and your running game is garbage.
And that just shows you the power of the sports networks that they will put Arch Manning number 1 and haven't seen a full season.
His name. That's all. I'm not taking nothing from him.
Right.
I think he's a good quarterback, and I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks. But they hyping him up now so that after this year, he's going to be the overwhelming number 1 draft pick coming out. next after this season. That's why I think the Giants going to hold out.
The
Giants
ain't gonna hold out.
The Giants, I don't think they're not going to get Sanders or Cam. They'll go after Travis Hunter or somebody else. And they'll tank this next season. Trust. They'll tank it or make trades. They want to be the #1 draft pick. I'll guarantee you the Giants going to be in the fight.
You don't have to do that. They could trade up and get Arch Manning, but
right. They want him. They want him, dude. They want him. They already had this uncle. So
yeah, that's crazy. I had another one. I'm gonna share this one here. Now this is interesting here. It talks about the Big 12 conference playing on Fridays. Now before I put this up, I'm trying to get with this Friday games and stuff, but another thing. No, not this Friday, just every Friday, Big 12. Yeah, it says Big 12 conference announces slate of Friday games for 2025. And I'm gonna share my screen so you guys can see it there. And
they must want lower viewership, man.
I was thinking like, man, what the heck? Let's share this out. Okay, there we go. And we're going to start off with, let's see here, Friday, August 29, Georgia Tech at Colorado. That'll be, and that's one Friday game, August 29.
It's going to be a good game.
Auburn and Baylor, September 12th, Colorado, Houston. The 12th, Kansas State, Arizona, and Tulsa, Oklahoma State. TCU, Arizona State, West Virginia, BYU, Houston, UCF, and Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, and Kansas. So, again, cable sports networks that we're going to talk about.
That.
Yeah,
that's probably something they worked out with Fox. They won't listen. They doing that shit because they want all the eyes on them, which I understand. They going up on Saturdays against the SEC and the ACC.
Yeah,
and the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So now everybody don't have the split screen at home like I do, where you can watch 4 games at one time.
Right.
And it's usually one game from every conference.
Right.
So if they want exclusive eyeballs on their conference.
Yeah.
It's just the games you showed. How many of them games really stick out? Like, wow, I want to see that game. I want to give up.
That you run at home to say, hey, I mean, unless you're a Colorado fan, I'm pretty sure they'll get high viewership
Georgia
for
Tech
that game.
Colorado game is going to be a good game in the beginning of the year because Georgia Tech is a sneaky good team, and that new coach has really changed the shit around. But
right,
other than that, man,
Auburn, Baylor, it'll be all right. But I don't see any game that really, right now, to be a early season game. Yeah, I'm not running home to see probably any of those for real, But hey, it is what it is on that one. I just thought it was interesting that they're going to move a lot of the Big 12, moving a lot of their games, because it used to be like the Mountain West played on Fridays or something like that. Now you got the Big 12 playing on Fridays, and that's crazy. Another thing that caught my attention, and I think I seen this on Twitter, and it talked about teams that had the most 5-star athletes in the last 11 years. And
we know who that is.
I don't even have how many they have.
Say who that is.
Yeah, but out of the 5, what made it interesting, these teams, they counted the last 11 years of the college football playoff championships. Who won the most? You got Bama won 3, Georgia won 2, Clemson won 2, Ohio State won 2, Michigan and LSU both won 1. So I probably could find and see how many. Yeah, I know how many they got here. It's going to be right. Is this it right here? This here. Okay, yeah, Alabama 5 stars in the last 11 years, or the college football era. They didn't have 55 5 stars. Georgia didn't have 49 5 stars. Ohio State then had 33. Clemson then had 28. Texas then had 23. Texas A&M 23. LSU 19. USC 18. Michigan 14, and FSU, Florida State, that had 13. It's interesting because you had, FSU, they haven't won one in the last 11 years. So, of course, the quarterback got hurt. Was it last year? Yeah, last year got hurt, and they was denied the opportunity to compete. Michigan snuck up and won one before Harbaugh went in. USC hasn't been close. LSU haven't been close since they had
Saban as the head coach.
LSU had the quarterback played for Cincinnati Bengals.
That's right, Burrow. I'm tripping.
Yeah, Joe Burrow. Yeah,
that's when Orgeron was the coach.
Yeah, Texas, Clemson. Yeah, so it's interesting. So that goes to our debate. So we see in the last 11 years they had all these 5 stars.
Oregon had some 5 stars too. So they I guess they weren't on the list.
No, it just ranked the last 11 years and the ones that have won college football playoff or won a championship. So the question is, I know we talk a lot about stars don't matter, but if you look at the last,
they do and they don't.
Yeah, they do and they don't. I mean, because they can get you a long way, but you need some studs on your team. You
gotta have coaching, man. I can have all the 5 stars. Look at A&M. They had the best signing class ever.
Yeah,
a few years ago. They got old boy from Miami with all the gold teeth that play on the D line, and Cristobal went to him and tried to get him, and at the last minute, he signed right when Cristobal got hired. He almost went with Miami, but he decided to go with A&M. And I always said it wasn't, he said it was because they had just hired Mario, and Mario came to his house at midnight, and they was trying to give him the flip. I said, man, they threw that money. A&M threw that long money at him. That's why. I mean, who the fuck want to leave Miami to go to College Station, Texas? They threw that bag at him.
Right.
They had the best signing class ever. And what did they do? Nothing.
Right.
They didn't do nothing. They did nothing, Dwayne. They did nothing. They had the best signing class in college football history.
And that's crazy when you think about it.
They had all these 5 stars in all these different positions, and they didn't do anything.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you need some, but if they don't fit,
coaches, man, you even looking at our school, when Miami had the best team in the country, arguably the greatest team of all time, was it loaded with 5 stars? No.
Right.
Reed wasn't a 5-star. Portis wasn't a 5-star. Shockey wasn't a 5-star. Dorsey wasn't. The only 5-star kid I could think of on the team was probably Gore and DJ Williams the year before when he was the #1 recruit coming out of California. He was a 5-star.
Right.
Santana wasn't a 5-star. Brian McKinney came out of a junior college. Gonzalez wasn't a 5-star. McDougal wasn't a 5-star. None of these dudes. It's coaching.
Yeah.
It's coaching, and it take a combination of going through a process. And in that case, they went through a process of losing, getting whooped, and getting beat. And then they went and got the right strength and conditioning coach. They had the right position coaches in place. And they built something down there that would probably never be duplicated again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now everybody want quick success. Let's go out here and get all the kids. Saban had good coaches.
Yeah.
Dabo had good assistant coaches. So if you get really good coaches, 4-star and 5-star talent, it's going to be hard for me to beat you.
Yeah.
Because now I got the best high school talent that's out there, on top of the best coaches that are available, coaching these positions.
Yeah.
So when Ohio State's wide receiver coach is regarded as the best wide receiver coach in the country, and he's putting cats in the league, where are all the 5-star receivers going?
Right, yeah.
They going up to him because he's doing what John Calipari said with Kentucky. I can come in your house and tell your parents, I promise you in a year, I'll put your boy in the league.
Right.
Whereas in college football, it's got to be 2.
Right.
I promise you, I'll get your son in the league. Just send him to me. I'll have it ready. Why not go there? Why would I go somewhere else where it's a shoe-in? It's a guarantee. It's damn near, if I don't get hurt, it's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So coaching is everything. So it's not just about, you can have all the 5-star talent, But when Jimbo Fisher didn't have the coaching in place, they sucked at A&M.
Right. Yeah, true.
But when you got when you have coaching and you got good strength and conditioning and nutrition, your 2 and 3 star kids, hey, they right there on the bubble anywhere of being marked up to a 4 or 5. They gonna go all out.
I think the only thing that helped teams like Alabama and those guys that had 5-star, they had an abundance of 5-stars. So if a guy got hurt, they could bring in another 5-star. Other schools, you might have one 5-star, that 5-star go down. You don't have,
And they had this.
Oh, yeah. They had the money. Yeah.
If I can go out here and get, like I said, you might be the best linebacker in your city, in your state. And you come to Alabama, and when you walk in the locker room, you look around, and it's 4 or 5 other 5-star linebackers that was the shit where they came from too.
Right.
So guess what? Now I got to compete. And like you said, now the coach got depth.
Yeah, right.
I got a whole stable full of 5-star stallions that, guess what? They all world beaters.
Right.
And if I want to substitute one, I got another one coming in that, you know what, is
right.
no drop off in talent.
Right. Right. And that's the thing I think what made, and when you look at that list, what the reason why these teams were so successful.
That's why Bama won the SEC almost every year.
Yeah.
And they go to the title game. They went all the time, and they was always in the playoff because same with Clemson. Now, I give Dabo credit. Dabo got there. Clemson sucked his first few years.
Yeah.
He built that.
Yeah.
Nick Saban didn't build that. Nick Saban had a halfway something his first year, and then after that, Alabama, when that money started rolling in, they started getting talent. It was on and running from there, and he got the coaches. You have to have money to pay these coaches.
Yeah.
So when I can pay these coaches, we know you paying the players under the table. It just wasn't talked about then. But when I can pay my assistants and get the top coaches, after his first year, Alabama ran with it. When Dabo took over in 07 or 08 at Clemson, they weren't that good.
Right.
I remember Miami going down there and beating them a couple times in Clemson when he was the coach. Jacory was the quarterback one year. I remember the other year, my man that passed away, Moss, was the running back. They beat him in overtime down there, like in 2010 or something. So it took Dabo some years.
Right.
But Dabo was more of a traditionalist. He wanted to build his program up. So when it got there, it was sustain it.
Right.
And it's been sustaining ever since. And now he's going in the portal a little bit, but he's had good coaches. And both him and Saban have both lost coaches.
Right.
NFL or to other schools.
Right.
And they haven't really dropped off that bad. Now, like I said, do you consider last year a failure? Alabama people are going to say it's a failure because they so used to win.
Right.
Go out and get old boy from Washington. And I just think that Alabama's ran their course.
And the money opened up to other schools too, where they could compete.
That's why Saban bounced. I think with Dabo it's different because Dabo built something and he's sustaining what he's built. And he's lost coaches, but they don't have a big drop-off in talent or coaching. Right. And that's why I think Clemson is still going to be a threat.
Right.
So, I mean, plus they've gotten some really good quarterbacks. Dabo, with Taj and all that, they've gotten some really – look at all the quarterbacks he's had.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We talked before we came on air, talking about how Dabo locks in his recruits. Now, of course, we don't know exactly how he does it, but and if anybody knows in the chat, but
I thought I heard he's make them sign something like an agreement that, hey, if you're going to be with us, you agreeing to stay with us and not go make other visits. And I think it's I may be wrong, but I think it's something along those lines where, if you commit to them, you have to sign something saying, hey, okay, I'm not going to take any more visits to any other schools. I'm not going to entertain any other phone calls from other schools. I'm locked in with Clemson. So, I mean,
interesting.
I'm not so sure if I'm mad at that,
No.
Because if you're going through the recruitment process and you've already talked to a bunch of schools and you finally decide I'm going to roll with you, That's like cheating. Why you gonna sign with me or say why you gonna say I'm rolling with you and then behind my back?
All of a sudden,
Still,
like you said, we can
creep.
have a bad season. You sign with me, just like we're talking about. We're going to get into the Jalen Waters, and it's just off the cup. But this dovetails in why I kind of like what Dabo does. You know, you get these guys that sign, change their mind. You might have a up and down season. They change their mind, and then all of a sudden you ain't got a commitment no more that you thought was locked in. So don't know, and I'm gonna put it out there. I don't know what happened in the Jalen Waters situation, so I'm not going to speculate. I'm gonna wait till I get a little bit more information before I speak on that. But it's interesting how you get reports come out one day he locked in, 24 hours later, he's taking his time. Like, what happened in between that time? You know that
People get in this year. Maybe his family told him to slow his roll. You got a year to go.
Yeah,
we don't know. We don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
That's what I'm saying. It's interesting.
We all on the outside looking in, unless somebody got the inside scoop.
Yeah,
better than us, better than any of the fan base.
Right.
We don't know what's going on behind the clothes. It could be his parents. It could be, it could be Florida and Florida State still trying to chirp at him and get at him. And these schools play dirty, man.
Yeah. I just thought that was real.
They don't want to lose that kid to us.
Right. Right.
Florida don't want to lose. They already lost a coach. They already lost a few players. You got embarrassed last August. Just got the shit beat out of you at your place. And then all the kids coming off the sideline telling all these potential recruits, you don't want to go here.
Right.
Go here. I mean, Florida is real salty at Miami right now.
Yeah.
Because you changed the name of their town from Gainesville to Canesville. They still they butthurt over what happened, Dwayne. They really are. I go back and look at the highlights and I'm like, I see why. That was bad, bro.
Yeah.
That was really bad for them.
Yeah. I just thought it's crazy.
Mario cannot let that crap happen the other way around, period. And I know it's not.
Right.
He's not in the same position that Napier was in with this team. So I'm looking forward to that game. I'm looking forward to that game and Notre Dame. I think this year maybe I'm reaching on a limb. I think Miami could be better than they were this past season.
Yeah. I think so. I think that their schedule sets up that who they're playing and where they're strong at, which is in the trenches. If they were weak in the trenches, I would be a little bit more worried.
I think the defense is going to be a lot. The defense is going to be a lot different, and they are going to be a lot more of a force this year than they have been last year or in the last few years. I think this defense with this revamped secondary, this new coach, all new coaches coming in, I think this defense is going to be a real force for the team overall. And it's not going to be all on the offense and Shannon Dawson and Carson Beck. I think they're going to put up numbers. They're going to score. But I think this defense with this secondary they got, because this secondary is legit.
Yeah, I've been seeing some reports, and Jesus agrees with you. He says the defense is going to carry this team.
Secondary, man. And with Bain being healthy and Mesidor going to the other end, I think Bain might be on the verge of having a Reggie White type when he was in college, like what he did in college. I think this defense is going to really surprise some people this year. They may even win a couple games.
And that'd be nice.
And that would really, if they can do that, I think Miami has a really chance to overall, as a complete team, be better than what we had with Cam Ward. Not taking because that was all offense.
Yeah, you're talking about a complete overall team.
Complete football team. I think Miami is going to be a lot better this year than last year. And if they get 10 plus wins, they're definitely, if they get to the ACC title game and win it, they got just as good a chance as anybody else. The only thing that scares me is the TV network, the cable network, man, because we know how it is in sports now, man.
Yeah. Well, I would say this: with us having Carson Beck, and I'm just talking about nationally, I think they'll want to cover them kind of like they covered Cam Ward, because he's a national figure. You're making over $4 million, you're at a predominant school, not so much as they would if he was still at Georgia, of course, because that's their cowbell SEC. But I still think that's going to still give us good ratings just having him
I'm not
on the roster.
I wonder, is Georgia going to be really good without him? Is what's the state of LSU? Like I said, I think Florida's going to be a lot better. I think South Carolina is going to be a lot better.
Yeah. I
haven't seen much out of Missouri, our home state. I'm interested in what they're going to do now that they've lost. They've lost Luther and they lost Brady Cook.
Brady Cook, yeah.
How's Missouri going to reload that? Auburn, I don't know about Auburn. Tennessee too. I just think South Carolina and Florida and Texas are your three teams. I think that will be at the top in the SEC, and your Alabamas and Georgia will be right below that because they got the money, they got talent.
Right.
I just don't think they're going to be the top teams like they have been. I think Texas is looking to take that over.
Right.
I really do. I think Texas is looking to take that role away from Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I have no doubt in my mind that that's what Texas wants to do. If they're gonna be in this conference, they want to be the face of that conference.
You said Texas A&M is a sleeper. Is a state.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah. They actually played pretty good, and then they kind of fell off at the end. But yeah,
that's another one. I'm glad. Thank you, Jesus. That could be the fourth team. That's them Texas schools, man. Texas is not. They're not SEC. They're not your traditional Georgia, Bama, Florida, Mississippi. They've been Texas. They used to be the old Southwest Conference before the Big 12. So I really think that since they in this, A&M jumped first, however many years ago when them and Mizzou jumped, but they're going to be in this. They want to take it over.
Yeah.
Especially the Longhorns. They want to take this over.
Yeah. And they had a conference, some kind of news conference before they actually went to the SEC, and they were talking about how they were built to take over the conference even before they even went there, because Sarkisian had put together that big offensive and defensive line.
Yeah,
and I mean, he
did the same thing what Mario did. They were under Saban.
Yeah,
when Mario was there, Al Golden hired Mario. Within a couple months, Mario left, went down to Alabama, became Saban's #1 Florida recruiter. And the next thing you know, they started recruiting some of the best talent in Florida, and he was getting some of the best old linemen he can get his hands on, and making sure that Alabama had. That's why Saban said what he said about Miami's offensive line. When he went in their locker room, it reminded him of what he had at Bama.
Yeah,
when the ball was with him there. You got all these 6'5", 6'7" dudes, 330+ pound dudes, and they're not fat.
Right. They can move,
long dudes that can move, and that's why he said. And Texas doing the same thing. Sarkisian was his OC for how many years? He was his offensive coordinator. So they know what to do in that conference. They know what it's going to take, to get to that upper echelon of these schools to win it all.
And while we're talking about schedules, I'm gonna add this up here, and this actually is talking about the 10 toughest football schedules this season coming up. And of course, the season haven't started, but I think they're starting for the beginning of the year. And number 1 is Oklahoma. Now they do have a gauntlet coming right out the box. So they got non-conference games against Michigan, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU. That is a gauntlet coming out the rack.
I mean, you know what, Dwayne? I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid.
You don't think so? You don't think that's a tough schedule?
They playing their conference teams.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, and all their conference teams, we already said Ole Miss. Well, Ole Miss should be good. They did lose their quarterback.
That would be the same if Miami had on the schedule Florida State, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, at NC State, at North Carolina. You could say the same thing.
Well,
gosh darn, they going through a gauntlet. All the best teams in the ACC, and half of them you at their place.
Well, so you don't think that these schools that they're playing?
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying, again, the media, because it's the SEC. Oh, it's a gauntlet.
Hey, and matter of fact, let me see. The number 2 is Florida. They got them up here. And
so what do you say when? What do you say? Okay, so what do you say when Iowa State? No, not Iowa.
Well, here, let's go to Syracuse because they're number 4 on the list. Let's see. Syracuse, number 1. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, Syracuse wants to play at Clemson, at SMU, at Georgia Tech, at Miami. And they play Notre Dame.
That's a gauntlet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a gauntlet of a schedule. Yeah.
That's a tough. Again, whoever wrote this article, that's what I would get at. Why Oklahoma got to be number 1? Because they playing SEC schools. Okay, that's tough. That's tough for Syracuse.
Yeah,
that's a tough schedule for them. They not gonna go 9-3 this year.
Not playing that schedule.
Nope.
Let's see. Let's check another outlier team. Let's see what.
Look at Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. They have. Let's see what they got. They plays.
Now you talking Big Ten?
Michigan, Iowa. I don't know. I mean, I know they had that good defense last year.
Every year they got a good defense.
Ohio State, Oregon. Okay, well, like I said, that's conference. I think the most impressive one on the list is the last team. Is Kent State that they have on this list. And I asked, why did they put Kent State on the list? So,
look who they playing.
Yeah, but they're getting $4 million. But look who they playing. They playing Texas Tech, Florida State, Oklahoma. That's crazy. This isn't brutal as playing. Okay, let me see. They play Florida State September 20th, Oklahoma October 4th. That's crazy. Washington, Oklahoma, Georgia.
That's tough for them because, again, Kent State, they not a top program.
No.
All these guys are going to be like me and you in 10 years working.
Right.
How many guys on that team going to go to the league? Maybe 2, maybe. So, yeah, they got to play all these schools. Of course, that's a gauntlet for them.
Right.
Go back up to the top. Oh, that's On 3 wrote that.
On 3 wrote that, yes. Okay, let's see. Let me get out of this screen here. We're going to stop sharing that. And we're going to close that down. All right, let's go to Anthony and see what he puts up on the screen here. All right, he said I think the lawsuit is just finished. The ACC and Clemson, Florida forced them to stay in the conference because they're getting paid more. I don't think the SEC or Big Ten wants them.
I don't think they want them either.
Yeah, I think they want somebody if they're going to realign after that 2031 contract come up. They're going to want somebody.
Maybe then, but we're going to see what the state of college football is in 6 years.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's 6 years from now.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. I look at it like this. It's all money. And that's why I preface this to say, who's to say that the SEC won't follow the ACC model and say, hey, Georgia, Alabama, y'all been carrying this division. Y'all should get more money than Kentucky, Vanderbilt. You know what I'm saying? Teams like that. Why are we paying you the same and you out here, can't even get TV revenue, can't, draw good, but we're paying you the same thing. And so they might want to follow the ACC model.
You got teams in the SEC that they ain't going to, Kentucky ain't going to never win that conference.
You can't say never. Now, we come back 5 years from now, we might be sitting up here.
I'd be shocked. Before Kentucky win it, Missouri will win it. A&M will win it.
Yeah.
Tennessee will win it. Florida will win it. Yeah. Auburn will win it. I think Kentucky, they've had good teams, but teams like Kentucky and Mississippi State, even Ole Miss. I don't think is old Jackson Dart left. I want to see what Ole Miss do this year. Be middle of the pack.
Yeah, I think so too.
Middle of the pack in the SEC. I'm sorry, Dwayne. These are schools unless they all of a sudden kids don't want to go to Bama and don't want to go to Georgia and don't want to go to Florida,
right?
Don't want to go to Texas.
Sure, yeah.
You know, they don't want to go to Missouri because Missouri got a lot to show.
Yeah,
Missouri got a lot to offer.
Yeah, they getting that SEC money. Got that new stadium built.
They done redid that. They done redid that stadium in Columbia, man. They put them suites in there, man. You see that SEC money since they joined.
Yeah.
So I mean, Kentucky and Mississippi State are two schools that I don't think will ever win that conference. I'm sorry, I'm keeping it real, man. I don't think they go win it, man.
And this goes back to what we're saying. This is the sports media people are giving these teams at the SEC and Big Ten way too much credit.
They are
saying their schedule is tough because of their conference night. And yeah, we agree. I'll put it up there just kind of for satire.
It's a four-letter word. All I can say is the Entertainment Sports Network. They've been pushing this for 15 plus years about that conference, man.
Yeah. And I call them ESPN spin. So that's what I call them.
Hey.
Yeah, because they're going to push their moneymaker and they're going to try to influence people to make them think that they're the best conference in the world. You know that
they want eyeballs on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. It'll never go back to how it was in the 80s and in the 90s where, your big time games were day games on a Saturday. Right. We can stay home, have a beer, watch a noon kickoff, 1 o'clock kickoff. It's the big game of the day. And you can still go out Saturday night to whatever you're doing with the wife or wedding or whatever, concert, whatever. Now it's like, shit, I got a comedy show I want to go to, but my team playing prime time Saturday night. What do I do?
Right.
That's because of that's where the TV has changed now.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. What can you do? I mean, I'd rather get back on network television like it used to be, but
yeah. And I think we touched on this last week, and I think Anthony actually touched on this too. And it was talking about the reseeding. There's reports coming out that after the 2025, they're going to do reseeding in the playoffs. I think it's a good thing, I think it's
I'm thinking this year is going to be a lot better than last year was the first year.
Yeah.
And I think they've seen the mistakes they made.
Yeah.
How it was seeded.
Well, they're not going to do it this year. It's going to have to be after this season that they're going to reseed.
Right. But I think this season here, this 25 season, they're going to do a lot better than what they did last year as far as what teams get in. Like I said, you got this committee, man. Until you get rid of the conference championship games, which they probably won't.
Right.
And you get rid of this committee. I just think this year they'll do it. The first year was bumpy. I think this year they'll do a better job. With the
I don't know. I hope so. We're going to put this up here. They said, do you guys think
they made that argument for Indiana? And the biggest advocates for Indiana were the Ohio State fans.
And the Big Ten Conference.
And yes, the conference as a whole, yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of Buckeye fans were advocating for Indiana to be in that playoff.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to ask, do you guys think Florida fans overestimate how much power Florida actually has to allow a team like Miami into the conference? Do Florida fans overestimate how much power Florida actually has to allow teams like Miami into the conference?
The Gator fan base, I don't know. I don't know what to think of their mindset, but
I know one thing: they don't want us in the conference because now we're recruiting head to head. So, and
already head to head. If Miami joins the Southeastern Conference, Dwayne, can you imagine if they join the SEC?
Yeah, it'll be a wrap then.
So wrap.
Yeah,
Florida State would become a D2 school.
And I'm just going before you finish that point, I'm just going to let you guys in on something that Eric and I, since we've stayed in the state of Missouri and we've witnessed teams jump from a conference into the SEC. It's not so much of people can laugh and say, "Oh, he'll be a bottom dweller in the SEC." It's the money that your school get. You can go and you can go to the
money in the
Missouri.
The money. They knew in Missouri if they left the Big 12, joined the Southeastern Conference, two things would happen.
Right.
The number one thing is the money.
Yeah.
The number two thing, you're going to start getting better football recruits now because they're in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah. And this is what happens. Like I said,
the top kids that would not have normally even considered Missouri.
They were going to Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Well, I'm just saying that the sentiment for the longest was, for a lot of kids was, I want to play in the SEC.
Right.
I want to play in the SEC. So if all your 5-star kids are saying, I want to play in the SEC, and now Missouri is part of that.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to get a look. Whereas when they were in the Big 12, they weren't getting a look.
Yeah.
Now
and that's my point. It's like when they got in the SEC, now they actually got straight competition because a lot of talent leaves from this area and goes to the Big 10.
Missouri had a different reason to go to the SEC than Texas A&M did.
Yeah.
And them bounced to go to, because they didn't want to go up head-to-head against Texas, and Texas had their own network.
Right.
Texas owns the state of Texas with college football. Baylor knows it. SMU knows it. Texas Tech knows it. Houston knows it.
But the funny thing, they're back in the conference with Texas, and they still getting an equal share of the pie. The same thing, the reason why Texas left is the same situation that they're in. I mean, they're getting a big piece of, a lot more money than they was, but all of them getting the same amount.
I think Texas, like I said, Texas got in with the full intent of taking over and not waiting long to take over.
Yeah,
I think this year they're going to put their foot down on that SEC.
Oh, I don't see that. I'm gonna put this up here.
No,
not that. Not what you're saying. I don't see this. I don't see. He thinks Texas A&M ends up in the Big 10 because they left the Big 12 because Texas is getting way too much money. Yeah, but the thing is now is that everybody in the SEC gets the same amount.
Well, Anthony, I'm gonna say this to you, Anthony. Texas is a very rich state. They got a lot of billionaires, and a lot of these billionaires went to school at Texas and A&M. They're in the oil business, so that both of those schools already had money.
Yeah,
they already had money, but when they were in the Big 12, they had money because of alumni and the boosters. Yeah. They had the money. The money was never an issue for either school because they got it. They got enough graduate boosters that got the money that it was never a problem.
Right.
Like I said, A&M didn't go in the SEC because of a money reason. They went to the SEC because they knew they trying to compete with Texas in the Big 12. They knew they couldn't get past them in the Big 12 because they were the Longhorns were a bigger brand than A&M, and they both in the same conference. That's why A&M bounced. It wasn't a money thing. It was like get away from them.
I think he clarified, and I do agree with this. I think we read your statement wrong because he said, so you don't believe that it was BS Texas A&M left because Texas. No, that's the whole premise that we're saying. That's why Mizzou left, Texas A&M left.
Missouri left for the exposure and the money.
Yeah. No, Texas left because they didn't want to give up any more money. They was like, hey, we getting so much of the pie in the Big 12, we want to get up out of here.
You talking about A&M or Texas?
I'm talking about Texas itself. But A&M, they had different reasons because the Big 12, Mizzou and everybody felt like they was getting shitted on. They was calling them out on it, Anthony. They were like, hey, look, you guys saying that you're doing all of this and you don't want to give us any money.
Right.
Texas they didn't want it.
Texas was getting all the love from the Big 12.
Right. All the love.
Them in Oklahoma, but Texas was getting because Texas had the most influence.
Right.
Remember, Texas is an old Southwest Conference school. They're not an original Big 8 school, which became the Big 12.
Right.
So, that used to be Nebraska. They would have down in school.
Oklahoma.
70s and 80s was Nebraska and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Texas was in the SWAC. A&M was in the SWAC. Arkansas was in the SWAC. They was in the Southwest Conference.
Yeah. And it's crazy because it's like it all comes full circle when I see it, because all the teams that was in the Big 12, they're trying to get into the SEC now. It's like it's crazy how this stuff just turns full circle. And he put not that one. He says he started a shitstorm in Florida State chat room when he said that at the best, if you give guys if you guys leave the conference, your Big 12 teams, the Big 10 teams, or the SEC teams doesn't want you. Yeah, and that's another media thing I think they're trying to spin too, that everybody wants Florida State. I think they're really trying to, ESPN trying to push that narrative big time, trying to push that narrative.
Florida State, even though they won under Jimbo, they won. Jimbo won with Bobby Bowden's kids, I think. And Jimbo, he pushed Bowden out the door.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not a Florida State person, but I thought the way they did him was dirty at the end, So, I don't care about Florida State.
Well, I think, like I said, they're overselling their hand, and I think they're getting help. And they're getting helped by the media networks. That's what I think, because I just think that a lot of that stuff has to do with the media, and or especially ESPN trying to tell them, Florida State, everybody wants them. Clemson, everybody wants them. And when we look at Clemson outside of football, what do you look at them at? That's my thing. Even though we know football is the bigger revenue of their school.
Always put a decent basketball team on the field. They got a good baseball program. I'm not. You
don't look at them as a national power in basketball. I don't. When I look, that's the point I'm making.
When I think college basketball national powers, I'm thinking North Carolina, Duke,
Kentucky back in the day,
UMass, schools like that, Virginia. Those are, when it comes to the men,
right. So yeah, that's interesting. That it's different. I read this article that the only realistic teams that the Big Ten want out of the ACC is Miami and North Carolina. Then that's interesting, because I think Eric and I talked about this, and we talked about how the ACC wants that foothold in Florida, in the state of Florida. Now, I mean, a lot of people don't think that's a good move for them. I think it's a great move to me, if you have to lead the conference, because you're going to be playing Oregon, Michigan. You still have the Notre Dame home and home. You will still have Ohio State. I mean, you can't tell me a TV revenue game would be off the charts.
I can see Miami in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They need to change the name of that shit to the Big something else, because they
what they call the Big. They got the little 12 in the logo or whatever they got now.
They need to rename all these damn things, because I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I was reading about our beloved classmate that passed, but
okay.
I can see Miami going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah, I can too.
Because that would draw a lot of eyeballs. I think Fox would want that. I think Fox, as a rival to ESPN, I mean, think Miami would play Ohio State almost every year.
Yeah.
Play Michigan, they'd play Iowa, they'd play Michigan State, they'd play Minnesota. So yeah, they would have to go up there in the cold, but hey, so what?
Right, they still got to go out of Florida.
You and I, right? They got to come down there in the heat.
Right.
You and I, we've been around. We from a time when they said anytime, anywhere, any place. It don't matter. We're gonna kick your ass no matter where we play.
And that was the interesting. I forgot what. I think I was over on Flo Kane's in this chat, and I was in there talking to somebody, and his biggest thing is about, well, they'll have to go up in the cold. And I'm thinking, like, man, that's kind of ridiculous as a football player. That and maybe because I'm from the Midwest, that it's natural you're gonna play in the cold at some point. And if you're a football player, just in general, at some point in your career, if you keep going on, you're going to have to play in the cold, whether you go to college, the pros, wherever. So it's just something that's going to have to happen. So I just think that's a ridiculous argument that they got to go up north and play in the cold. Yeah, you got to go up north and play in the cold. So what? You go up there, kick their ass in the cold weather.
Miami's played at Michigan before twice.
Hell, they play at Pitt. It's cold as hell up there if you get late in the season.
At the last game of the year at Pitt, you damn right it's cold.
Shit, it's super cold up there.
You play at Boston College up there. It's cold up there in Massachusetts.
Yeah. That's
Syracuse. If Syracuse didn't have that little dome, you'd be playing them outside.
Hey, they better be happy Syracuse got a dome.
Cold upstate. You used to play Maryland. It's cold in Maryland in November.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, Miami and the SEC, that's a long shot. I doubt it.
Right.
The only way it would happen is if the other two schools don't go.
Right.
Or don't get the invite or get accepted to get in.
Now, the only thing I don't like is, I guess, travel-wise, because for fans' perspective, well, and I'm just going to say this broadly, Cane fans don't travel that well, and I will tell you this, for you guys that don't know, a lot of these Big Ten teams travel well. I'm just going to tell you that. They travel, your top three.
That's because they traditional programs. I'm not going to say when Miami was winning, they traveled.
Yeah. I mean, but we know.
They not
it takes time,
It takes time, man.
I know, but I'm just throwing it out there that they do travel.
A lot of things factor in. The culture of the climate of our country right now, the cost of living of everything, it's not cheap.
Yeah, that's sure not.
I mean, you gotta come from some money, man. I go to a game every year. I fly down there.
Right.
I would love to go to more than one game. Could I? They play at Pitt this year. One of my wife's good friends, she worked for the University of Pittsburgh. Could I get a ticket? Yeah, but then I got to fly to Pitt.
Right.
You got to factor in, getting a ticket, renting a car, getting a hotel, having money to eat.
And then how good is the team you're going to fly to see? Do you want to waste all your money going to fly to see them?
Right.
I'm
not going to go, Miami win. People gonna travel, gonna go with them. I mean, you're gonna have your diehards no matter what, but and Miami, you gotta remember, Miami only been good at football for the last 40 years or so.
Right.
So your Ohio States and Michigans, man, they've been in the game for a long time.
Right. We put this up from 805Ks. What's up, bro? It says FSU did do Bobby Bowden so wrong. That man should have went out with the parade, not the way they did that man. For sorry ass Jimbo Fisher.
Wasn't Jimbo his assistant or offensive coordinator or something before him? Right at the end of his time there?
Yeah.
They did him wrong. They did do him wrong. I felt they did.
Yeah. That's crazy too when you think about it. It's just that he said it made him hate them worse. Yeah.
I don't hate Florida State. I don't like Florida State, but it was good when they had good teams. When they played Miami all through the 80s, through the 90s, even in the early 2000s when they had Antrell Roll and Andrews Bell and Chris Winkie, and they had some good teams. 99, 2000, 01 Seminoles teams, 98. They had some good teams.
Right.
Bobby Bowden had some really. That's when I'm not gonna say I liked them, but them playing Miami, the games were good because they were battles.
Yeah.
They were battles. They wasn't one side or the other. It was, these were the two best teams in Florida.
Right.
And arguably some of in the country. And that rivalry, you really used to mean something where, the winner of that game normally went on to play for a natty.
Yeah.
And I think the Cable Sports Network helped kill that.
Yeah. The Cable Sports Network did a lot.
They helped kill that. I really did. They helped kill that. They always want to show specials on game day of what it was. And I'm like, y'all the reason why it ain't what it is now.
Yeah, and they still talking about how do you keep natural rivalries where you can if you got the only way you can keep it if you take a team and take a team,
all this realigning and stuff. It's the same with the NFL when the NFL realigned and come up with the new divisions.
Yeah.
They were so hell bent on keeping that Dallas Redskin rivalry. And that's why they kept Dallas in the NFC East. Dallas don't belong in the East. Dallas belong in the NFC South because Carolina don't belong in the South. They could go either way, but they on the East Coast. They closer to the water than Texas.
Right.
But they want to keep the rivalry with the Redskins, so that's why it is the way it is. So geographically speaking, no, the Cowboys should be in the NFC South,
right,
and the Panthers should be in the NFC East. But
it's the money thing, especially in the sports.
And with college now, you'll never lose the Michigan Ohio State rivalry because they're in the same conference. They ain't leaving.
Right. Yeah.
You killed that's why I said, Texas coming over to the SEC, it was a win-win because not only do they make the SEC that much better, they drug Oklahoma with them.
Yeah.
I told you Oklahoma was the bad kid in the grocery store getting drugged by his mama to come on. That's what Texas did with Oklahoma. They really don't want you, but come on, because at least it's going to help them with this. It keeps our rivalry. It keeps the Red River shootout.
Yeah.
They didn't care about the Missouri-Kansas rivalry because it was more basketball, even though it's a deep – Missouri-Kansas is a very deeply rooted rivalry. It goes back over 100 years, and there's some really bad blood between Kansas and Missouri. People died behind this rivalry. It's more than sports.
Yeah.
But they didn't care about that. They busted that up.
You're right.
They busted up the rivalry between Oklahoma and Nebraska when they played each other. Two Big 8 juggernauts going at it. That's over now because
it made me think of, we were talking about non-conference. We didn't get into that. I wanted to get into this before we left. I was reading a piece and Urban Meyer started talking about how he thought that the non-conference games were coming exempt. Now, his thing was they talked about, I think it was Tennessee or Nebraska pulled out the Tennessee game that was supposed to be at the beginning of the year. It was supposed to be a home and home. Nebraska gave, I forgot what excuse that they gave. They said something about their stadium was being renovated, but everybody knows that's a crock because you still was going to play the game and you playing games there this year. But his thinking is that they pulled out because of the college football championship, and one loss can hurt you. But then you look at some of the opening games at the beginning of the season, Notre Dame, Miami, and there's some other big marquee games. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. Is that I don't think people are pulling out a strong beginning of the season non-conference games. What do you think about that? And like I said, I don't know the reason Nebraska did. I could just report what they said, that they were some stuff going on with their stadium, but a lot of people when I read it don't believe that. So
they were supposed to open up at Tennessee.
I think they were supposed to open up at home against Tennessee. I'm thinking.
I don't know what they're scared of Tennessee for. I mean, Tennessee ain't. I could see if it was Alabama or Georgia, but Tennessee ain't. They don't strike fear, at least not to me. I mean, no, I don't think people are shying away from that because it draws attention. It draws TV.
Yeah.
That Miami Notre Dame game is big. It's the first game of the year.
Right.
So it's a big draw. And Notre Dame has a good program. Miami got a good program.
Yeah.
It's a big test for I think more for Miami than Notre Dame. Notre Dame made it to the championship game.
Right.
And I think they'll be strong again this year. I just think they're gonna start the season 0-1.
You think? Oh, Notre Dame going to start the season 0-1.
Start the season 0-1 because I think that Miami got a lot on the line. Mario has a lot on the line this year. You know, he has a lot on the line. You can't go out there and drop an L in this game. Just like you couldn't go out there last year against Florida and drop that game.
Right.
You know, that was a big game, and this is another big game, and you at home, and you got the co-champs. I'm not gonna say the runner-up coming in town, and I haven't heard of Notre Dame. They've lost some people. I haven't heard of them making any major moves. Where you've made some major moves, coaching-wise and player-wise.
Yeah, we still don't even know the quarterback situation in Notre Dame yet either. So
I don't think Notre Dame is going to be as good as they were last year.
Right.
I don't think Georgia's going to be as good, even though they got a big-time recruiting class coming in.
Right.
They got a lot of talent. I just think Kirby Smart's offense is not – their OC is not Shannon Dawson. That's what we were saying.
Yeah.
I think Carson Beck will do better with Shannon Dawson than he did with old boy at Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah, and allow him to open it up and sling that thing, you know?
I think he's going to be better protected. He's got better weapons. I think he's just going to – if he just plays his game like he did in 23 when he had Brock Bowers and McConkey, I think he's going to have a season as good, if not better, than what he had his first year at Georgia.
Yeah, we agree with this with 805 Canes. He says, let me see if we can get him up on the screen. And I agree with this. And that was going to be one of my keys. It's just in the trenches. So we all know they say we better be able to stop the run against Notre Dame.
I think they're going to be fine, man, because I've been following what they've been doing with linebacker. And it seemed like it's going to be Saint and that Geary in that middle.
Geary? Yeah.
Okay. And you got some other boys that are some real dogs at linebacker too. So I'm not, again, I can't stress this enough. That secondary, the safeties they got now. If other teams are going to try to run the ball, they're not going to get off like that, like they did this last year.
Right.
Bain is healthy. Even when he came back, he wasn't 100% healthy, man.
Right.
And Miami had some good dudes on the D-line last year, but it's the secondary. Every D-line at some point going to give up something.
Right, yeah.
Even the great Miami teams in the past gave up a little something.
Yeah. I always say the key is, like I said, they just got to stop the explosive plays.
Who was old boy for Florida State? Jones. He was tearing Miami ass up in 02.
Right.
He had, what, I think damn near 200 yards, if not in the Orange Bowl, when Miami could have lost that game. Oh, boy, Mr. Field.
Oh, yeah.
He was running all over Miami, all over Will Fork and Vilma and DJ and Sean Taylor. He was running all through Miami in that game. So even the great defenses of the past gave up some big time running. To running some days is just not your day.
Yeah. It better be their day when they play Notre Dame, though. That's all I'm saying. You know
what? I'm not worried about that.
Like I said, they'll be okay.
The team that it's the team that you think that shouldn't win is the one that come up and sting you. And speaking of the word sting, it brings the word B to mind. And when I think B, I think Georgia Tech. These dudes, for some reason, that's a team right there. And oh boy, coming back at quarterback, Haynes King again for them. That's a team you need to watch. They opened up at Colorado.
Yep.
They wasn't supposed to beat Florida State last year, and they beat them in Ireland on the field goal. Remember?
Yep.
That's the team that kind of make me say, okay, I'm gonna keep it. I ain't worried about Florida and Notre Dame. It's your in-conference foes that you think, okay,
right.
Georgia Tech is a team that, okay, they could be a team that could give Miami fits. because they're the kind of team that just won't go away.
Hey, 805K say, why you rocking that Tennessee hat? He said,
it ain't though. See, I got this hat at the Virginia Tech game last year. Look again. This was the free hat they gave to everybody at Hard Rock that night. Was it last year? Yeah. No, was it last year or the year before? It might have been 2 years ago I got this hat.
He just seen the plaid on there and he said, oh, hold up, that's Tennessee.
No. Come on, man. I would never. Come on. I know you see the checkers, but their orange is a little bit different. Their orange is more of our orange is more of a like the Broncos, that burnt orange. Tennessee is more orange like the Buccaneer orange. That other orange. I like that orange, and I'm a Bucs fan, but
right.
This ain't Tennessee, buddy. This right here. You see what it say?
Right
there, all day. They gave this out of cancer awareness. I think I got this hat. I think it was 2 years in the 23 season when I went down there.
Right. Oh man, that's funny. All right, well, we're gonna anything else you want to cover before we get up out of here? Like I said, I did want to go back and touch on you guys. When we started the show, we started talking about the way I had it labeled, the debacle. And my concern is where is the future of the ACC? Like Eric said, we don't root for the conference, we root for the team. So it really don't kind of matter where we fall at. We fall where we fall. But it's just interesting to see where we're going to in the next 5 years. It's going to be interesting to see. And we're going to see how the commentators and the big cable networks try to spin it, which is going to give us a great idea.
We'll see how this all play out when come August, September, when the season starts and we all start watching on Saturdays and we're watching game day in the morning. And when you start listening to Herb Street and Fowler and the rest of the dudes over there, and even the guys at Fox, you got to pay attention to what they say. You got, the subliminal messages, the reading between the lines. We'll get an idea. Like I said, I don't care where Miami land.
Right.
I don't care where they land. I really don't. It don't matter to me where they land. Big 10, Big 12, whatever. Stay in the ACC. I'm rocking to you. I don't care where they land. Just beat who you play.
Right.
Everything else will take care of itself. Just get the W.
Right.
Get the W. About the only thing I can say outside of that isn't that relevant is I don't know how long this contract is with Adidas. I don't dislike Adidas. I would love to see Miami get back with Nike as far as the uniforms go. But other than that, I don't care who we play, what conference we in. Just win. Winning takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Winning takes care of itself. They can say the Miami opponents were weak or not weak, or the ACC is weak, and they're gonna keep saying the same stuff. They're gonna regurgitate the same stuff every year. They say the same thing every year, and it just got proven last year that hey, the SEC isn't all that. The Big Ten kicked them right in the mouth, and I don't think the ACC had that bad of a record against them either.
No, I don't think so either.
So if Miami ends up in the Big Ten, I think that will be a win for Miami if they end up in the Big Ten. So what if you got to play at Iowa or at Minnesota? Okay.
Right.
But if you stay in the ACC or you go to the Big Ten, I don't see them going to the Big 12. The SEC is a really long shot.
Right.
Where you are. I don't see independence in the future, so just win. I don't care. Just win. That's all. That's at the end of the day. That's all we want to see. If we want to see them get back to where they used to be, we have to understand that.
Right.
Winning is one, and that there are other powers you are fighting against now that you didn't have to fight against before.
Right.
You're fighting with the television. You're fighting against the other schools, the media. The NCAA itself, which I don't think the NCAA has as much.
Right. I don't think they have as much power.
They don't have as much power and spine as they used to. I think these conferences have become bigger than the actual overseeing body of the NCAA.
Yeah, kind of like they telling them what they want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we'll see in the months to come. I think right now, all we should all be focused on right now is they on spring break this week, and then they come back and they got, I believe they have 12 more practices after spring break. So let's focus on the day-to-day. These kids are going to go home and do their spring break this week. Let's focus on the day-to-day. When they get back, practices, the reports, who's doing what. We get into the spring game, and then we can kind of get an idea of what's what. And Carson Beckman he ain't been throwing the ball a lot, but he's been working with his hand. I've seen some video with him kind of tossing the ball a little bit with his hand and whatnot, and working with they said Fickle looks really nice.
Nickel.
Yeah, Nickel. He looks really nice. I said Fickle. I'm tripping.
No, that's all right.
He looks really nice. So, these guys are coming along. Ray and JoJo, they coming along.
Yeah, keep hearing great things about JoJo. They said he out there clowning.
We're hearing a lot of good things about this secondary.
Yeah.
These young guys are really trying to get it in. So after spring break, 12 more practices. They working hard. They putting in the work.
Yes, sir.
So that's we focus on that, and then by the end we get into the summer, and then we can kind of get an idea of what's going to happen. And then once fall camp start in August, and hey, it's going to be getting time ready for Notre Dame. So all I can say is for everybody, just this conference thing, it is what it is.
Can't do anything about it.
We just let's see about this spring. Last transfer portal cycle. Is there anybody else out there Mario is trying to get, whether it's a receiver, whether it's a linebacker? I think receiver and linebacker might be two positions he going to try to get.
Right. Yeah. Definitely receiver. I definitely think he's looking
maybe another big time. Not saying we don't have any good receivers, but he may want to try to go out and get another veteran type receiver if there's one that wants to transfer.
Right.
And we're going to see this next transfer cycle because there's going to be some people moving.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see who it's going to be.
Right. Yeah.
From all over the country, it's going to be some guys moving. So that's the rest of March going into April going to be very interesting. Get through this spring break this next week, and then starting the 17th of March, when they get back to practice, we're going to see.
All right. That's going to wrap us up. We appreciate you joining the show. Hit that like button if you haven't hit it. Subscribe to the channel, of course. If you haven't purchased a t-shirt, you can email me at zoneinsports@gmail.com. Nice shirts there. I have them in white, black, and green.
Very nice shirts.
Hurricane logo on there. Zone in Sports and Hurricane colors. Other than that, we're out of here for the day. We appreciate your support as always.
Appreciate the support, everybody. And as always,
all about the U, baby.
Everybody have a great week.
All righty.